Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Benchmark Radio Podcast. On today's podcast is January 23rd, and we're going to be reading Isaiah chapters 7 and 8. So here we go. The sign of Emmanuel. When Ahaz, son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, was king of Judah, King Rezin of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, marched up to fight against Jerusalem, but they could not overpower it. Now the house of David was told, Aram has allied itself with Ephraim. So the hearts of Ahaz and his people were shaken as the trees of the forest are shaken by the wind. Then the Lord said to Isaiah, Go out, you and your son Shear-Jashub, to meet Ahaz at the end of the aqueduct of the upper pool on the road to the launderer's field. Say to him, Be careful, keep calm, and don't be afraid. Do not lose heart because of these two smoldering stubs of firewood. Because of the fierce anger of Rezin and Aram, and of the son of Remaliah, Aram and Ephraim and Remaliah's son have plotted your ruin, saying, Let us invade Judah. Let us tear it apart and divide it among ourselves, and make the son of Tabeel king over it. Yet this is what the sovereign Lord says. It will not take place. It will not happen. For the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is only Rezin. Within 65 years Ephraim will be too shattered to be a people. The head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is only Remaliah's son. If you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all. Again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz, Ask the Lord of your God for a sign, whether in the deepest depths or the highest heights. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, I will not put the Lord to the test. Then Isaiah said, Hear now, you house of David, is it not enough to try the patience of humans? Will you try the patience of my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. He will be eating curds and honey when he knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right. For before the boy knows enough to reject the wrong and choose the right, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste. The Lord will bring on you and on your people and on the house of your father a time unlike any since Ephraim broke away from Judah. He will bring the king of Assyria, the Lord's instrument. In that day the Lord will whistle for flies from the Nile Delta in Egypt, and for bees from the land of Assyria. They will all come and settle in the steep ravines and in the crevices in the rocks, on all thorn bushes and at the water holes. In that day the Lord will use a razor hired from beyond the Euphrates River, the king of Assyria, to shave your head and private parts, and to cut off your beard also. In that day a person will keep alive a young cow and 2 goats, and because of the abundance of the milk they give, there will be curds to eat. All who remain in the land will eat curds and honey. In that day, in every place, there were 1,000 vines worth 1,000 silver shekels. There will only be briars and thorns. Hunters will go there with bow and arrow, for the land will be covered with briars and thorns. As for the hills, once cultivated by the hoe, you will no longer go there for fear of the briars and thorns. They will become places where cattle are turned loose and where sheep run. Chapter 8. Isaiah and his children as signs. The Lord said to me, Take a large scroll and write on it with an ordinary pen, Meir Shal-Haz-Baz. So I called in Uriah the priest with Zechariah, son of Jerebekiah, as reliable witnesses to me. Then I made love to the prophets, and she conceived and gave birth to a son. And the Lord said to me, Name him Maher-Shalal-Haz-Baz, for before the boy knows how to say my father or my mother, the wealth of Damascus and the plunder of Samaria will be carried off by the king of Assyria. The Lord spoke to me again. Because this people was rejected, the gentle flowing of waters of Shiloh, and rejoices over Rezin and the son of Remaliah. Therefore the Lord is about to bring against them the mighty floodwaters of the Euphrates, the king of Assyria with all his pomp. It will overflow all its channels, run over all its banks, and sweep on into Judah, swirling over it. passing through it and reaching up to the neck. Its outspread wings will cover the bread of your hand. Emmanuel. Raise the war cry, you nations, and be shattered. Listen, all you distant lands, prepare for battle and be shattered. Prepare for battle and be shattered. Devise your strategy, but it will be thwarted. Propose your plan, but it will not stand, for God is with us. This is what the Lord says to me with his strong hand upon me, warning me not to follow the way of his people. Do not call conspiracy everything this people calls a conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread it. The Lord Almighty is the one you are regarding as holy. He is the one you are to fear. He is the one you are to dread. He will be a holy place. For both Israel and Judah, he will be a stone that causes people to stumble and a rock that makes them fall. And for the people of Jerusalem, he will be a trap and a snare. Many of them will stumble. They will fall and be broken. They will be snared and captured. Bind up this testimony of warning and seal up God's instruction among my disciples. I will wait for the Lord, who is hiding his face from the descendants of Jacob. I will put my trust in him. Here I am, and the children the Lord has given me. We are signs and symbols in Israel from the Lord Almighty, who dwells on Mount Zion. The darkness turns to light. When someone tells you to consult mediums and spiritists who whisper and mutter, should not a people inquire of their God? Why consult the dead on behalf of the living? Consult God's instruction and the testimony of warning. If anyone does not speak according to his word, they have no light of dawn. Distressed and hungry, they will roam through the land. When they are famished, they will become enraged and look upward. They will curse their king and their God. Then they will look toward the earth and see only distress and darkness and fearful gloom, and they will be thrust into utter darkness. That's the end of chapter 8. To be completely honest with you, I do not understand all those names and what all that means, and I think that it's the same thing as saying that just like, a county is headed by the state, which is headed by, the United States government. I think that's kind of the same thing. I think that it's more, for us now, it's more metaphorical about how we see that versus what all the exact words mean and the different counties and states and stuff like that, because those are some real different words than we use today. But some key verses that I found was in chapter 7, verse 9, it says, "The head of Ephraim is Samarites, and the head of Samaria is Reneli's son." This is the part I like. "If you will not believe, surely you shall not be established." Where it doesn't matter what county or don't get so lost in the words that you don't understand. But what he's saying is that there's all these counties that are sitting there and all these lands and tribes that are trying to do things, but they're not amounting to anything, because if you will not believe, surely you shall not be established. Secondly, in chapter 8, verse 13, "The Lord of hosts, him you shall hallow. Let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. He will be as a sanctuary, but as a stone of stumbling. They shall fall and be broken, be snared and taken." In verse 21, "They will pass through hard-pressed and hungry, and it shall happen, when they are hungry, that they will be enraged, and curse their king and their God, and look upwards." So, what does that mean for you? So, it means fear God and follow his word. Understand that it is not easy to follow him, and that's why many don't. That is the exact reason. It just said in that last verse there, verse 21, that they will pass through and they are going to be hard-pressed and hungry, and it shall happen when they are hungry, and that they will be enraged and curse their king and their God and look upwards. So, what I like about that is that it means understand it is not easy to follow him, and that is why so many don't, and that's why we need to, but we need to realize that this is not just some easy thing. Every day you need to be sitting here picking up your cross and understanding what it means for you. Everybody's going to sin. We're all sinners, whether we're Christian or not, but the difference is that if you're a child of God, if you come into the church and you're a Christian and you were baptized, you're a child of God, and yes, you are still a sinner, but you need to word it differently. You need to say, all the other world, they're just sinners. That's all they are. They sin, they can't change it, but that's what they are. But Christians and people of the church, we are children of God. I am a child of God who sins less. That's the distinction. You're still going to sin, but you need to understand that you can't sin the same amount as somebody and have the same mindset as somebody who's not a Christian. There should be, although you are flawed in your very nature, that you are going to sin, it should not be the same between a non-Christian and a Christian on how much they sin. Does that make sense? It's not like it's not like apples for apples, oranges for oranges. It's never going to be exact. It's just a mindset where you need to understand that the people who are not Christian, they are going to sin, and they're going to sin a lot, and they're going to do a lot of things. But every human is flawed, and every human is going to sin, so you're going to sin, even if you're a Christian. But the difference is that you are a child of God who sins less. So every day you need to be picking up your cross and spending time in His Word and understanding that there's things that there's going to be challenges that you're going to be confronted with, but you need to understand what choices and the answers to the choices that you have. That way you can make it going forward for you to put forth an effort to sin less and to live a life pleasing to God. So there you go. Isaiah 7 and 8, January 23rd. Tune back in tomorrow for our last Bible study of the week.